So, welcome to LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup. Thanks for joining me. I've got a couple dozen clips for you tonight on several topics for what looks like it's going to be a good show. As always, this is my weekly broadcast of the best clips from the Sunday morning news analysis shows from the corporate media here in the United States, along with my commentary between the clips. This week, I'll be taking clips from the regular Big Five outlets of ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox News, and NBC. There won't be any quasi-news clips this week because everybody was pretty much on vacation. No Bill Maher till January. Saturday Night Live was a repeat. Even Daily Show and Stephen Colbert were on vacation this last week for Thanksgiving here in the United States. So it'll all be straight news clips, although I think some of them have sort of a comedic aspect to them, as I'll get to in a minute. The topics I'll be covering tonight include, of course, Obamacare will be the big focus, but there'll be a little bit on Iran and China and NSA spying. And the first clip I want to show you, though, is has to do with the fight against HIV/AIDS in Africa. It's a clip from pop star U2 singer Bono, and he made an interesting comment on This Week with George Stephanopoulos on ABC, and I want to show you what he said in this clip.
And it's like, wow, this is incredible. This is what happens when people put their ego and political point scoring away for a bigger purpose, and they stop playing politics.
The closer you get to the finish line, the more difficult it can be.
We're very worried about complacency. There's a chance of having the first AIDS-free generation by 2015, 2016. We can see it. We could lose that if we lose the political will.
So yeah, I thought that was interesting in the last part there, where, that's a very serious subject, getting rid of AIDS in Africa and having the first AIDS-free generation. But the reason I thought that was a little bit comedic is, of all people to be talking about putting your ego aside, I think Bono was probably the last person I'd expect to get any sort of lecture on that. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Bono. I like U2 somewhat. It's not my favorite band, but I actually saw them live once. But Bono himself has always struck me. I guess maybe this is going to be controversial with some of my viewers, but I definitely thought that Bono lecturing people on putting their ego aside, maybe it's just that South Park episode on Bono, for those of you who have seen it, that is affecting my judgment of him. So that was one somewhat comedic clip, at least from that aspect, from the regular Sunday news analysis shows here in the United States. Something else I thought was kind of amusing came from Cardinal Timothy Dolan, was over on Meet the Press being interviewed by David Gregory, and he made a couple comments about Pope Francis and his new tone on a whole bunch of controversial issues, and I thought one of the more amusing things he said was on that topic, on how the Catholic Church is changing its tone on the issue of homosexuality and same-sex marriage, and I'll show you that clip here.
Marriage, we're not anti-anybody. I don't know, when you have forces like Hollywood, when you have forces like politicians, when you have forces like some opinion molders that are behind it, it's a tough battle. I do think, to get back to your question though, David, back in 1973 with Roe v. Wade, everybody said this is a foregone conclusion. In a couple years, this issue is going to go away. It's going to be backburnered. To this day, it remains probably the most divisive issue in American politics. And as you look at some of the changing attitudes, you say, wow, we're beginning to affect the young with the pro-life message. So
you
we're
don't
not going to
think
give
the
up
gay
on it.
marriage debate is over?
I don't think it's over.
Question.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of amusing, where he thinks that the Catholic Church has been caricatured as anti-gay. I don't know, that seems almost as sort of unself-aware as that whole Bono comment about putting your ego aside. And that wasn't really the only part where he made kind of a weird statement. Here's another statement from Cardinal Timothy Dolan. I think he's Cardinal of New York, one of the top Catholic leaders in the United States. here he is also, again, talking about the Catholic Church's position on same-sex marriage and whether it's going to win out. And anyway, here it is.
Attitude of Catholic beliefs and Catholic principles. Those who would try to closet us maybe in just what you might call below-the-belt issues, whether that be gay marriage or abortion or contraception or divorce, whatever, and those are important, no doubt about it, and the Church's teaching on that is unwavering. But that's not it. What Pope Francis has said, the way we forgive, the way we help the poor, the way we help the immigrant, the way we reach out to the sick and to the refugee and to the forgotten, those at the side of the road, that is as strong and as cogent a moral imperative as anything else.
All right, so let's talk.
Yeah, so they're, sorry about the lag there, using a little bit of new software today, which I have all the clips loaded up together, but I'm still kind of learning how to use it, so hopefully everything's working out. Let me know if you can see if the sound levels and the clip levels, everything took me a while to get it together. But anyway, there's Cardinal Timothy Dolan saying that he believes that people have been closeting the Catholic Church. I thought that was also kind of an amusing piece of language for him to use. And that last thing he was talking about, about how Obamacare or the Obama administration is making the Catholic Church not be able to follow its conscience. That has to do with this news from this last week about the Hobby Lobby case that's going to the Supreme Court. Well, actually, the Hobby Lobby case is actually whether the Obamacare regulations that require health insurance to include contraceptive care, whether that puts a burden on for-profit businesses. They actually gave a big exception for the Catholic Church and even a lot of Catholic organizations. But I want to show one clip on this whole Hobby Lobby thing. But before, I want to show first what Cardinal Dolan said about Obamacare. That was the last thing here. Here's what Cardinal Dolan said about Obamacare, and that'll transition me to the whole Hobby Lobby thing. Anyway.
For more affordable, more comprehensive, more universal health care. That's how far back we go in this battle, okay? So we're not Johnny-come-latelys. We've been asking for reform in health care for a long time. So we were kind of an early supporter in this. Where we started bristling and saying, uh-oh, first of all, this isn't comprehensive because it's excluding the undocumented immigrant and it's excluding the unborn baby. So we began to bristle at that. And then secondly, we said, and wait a minute, we Catholics who are kind of among the pros when it comes to providing health care, do it because of our religious conviction and because of the dictates of our conscience, and now we're being asked to violate some of those. So that's when we began to worry and draw back and say, Mr. President, please, you're really kind of pushing aside some of your greatest supporters here. We want to be with you. We want to be strong. And if you keep doing this, we're not going to be able to be one of your cheerleaders.
Yeah, so there he said, that's the Hobby Lobby part of his comment, where he's saying that the Catholic Church is no longer going to be able to be one of President Obama's cheerleaders because that they put on these regulations requiring health care coverage to include contraceptive care. And so, yeah, here I want to go back to to State of the Union. This is what I was kind of introducing a clip early here. This is Candy Crowley talking to former Vermont Governor Howard Dean, former presidential candidate, who actually says he might run again in 2016. And for once, I saw someone in the news talk about the Hobby Lobby case and the contraceptive care and correctly talking about whether it includes abortion or not abortion. And anyway, I'll show you that. Here is a clip from CNN's Candy Crowley on State of the Union talking about the Supreme Court case in this clip.
You agreed to take that on to see whether the government can force them to include, in this case, it's Plan B and Ella, which are morning after pills designed to prevent fertilization of an egg. And so this is going to the Supreme Court. That also could sort of upset the balance. Where do you think that's going, Governor?
Where do I think that's going? I have no idea what the Supreme Court's going to do. They haven't been terribly favorable to women's ability to control their own reproductive lives. So, but I don't have any idea. My view of that is that we're a single country, and I don't think employers get to impose their religious beliefs on their employees. or any other beliefs for that matter. I mean, this idea that we can all pick and choose what we're going to do is a tough idea. I was deeply opposed to the Vietnam War, and I thought it was immoral because we were being lied to by our own government. I still paid my taxes, and the people who didn't pay their taxes went to jail. So, you know, this is one country. We all have to live by a set of things that are passed in Washington and agreed to by the court. We'll see what the court does, but I don't think a particular employer has a right to decide what kind of health care their employees are going to get. That's now in the hands of the federal government, and that's where it should be.
Well, I think
Yeah, so that was really refreshing for me to see both how Candy Crowley there framed the whole Plan B and Ella contraception in terms of preventing fertilization, not as an abortifacient, as causing abortions, which is what a lot of people on the right are saying, which isn't true. And of course on Fox News I've seen it covered that way pretty heavily, and in terms of the religious rights of the employer and not the employee. In fact, there's a good chance my next video, my next edited, produced video I'll be putting up sometime this week will be titled Obamacare Forces Corporate Abortions, ? And it'll be based on some Fox News coverage of the Hobby Lobby case. So look forward to that if you're interested. Now, the main topic of the morning shows this morning was the Obamacare, especially the website, because today was the day that it was supposed to be up and running, that President Obama promised it would be fixed by December 1st, and of course today's December 1st, and I'll get to that in a minute. But one more kind of comedic thing I saw was a commentary from former Senator Rick Santorum, also a former presidential candidate, and he was talking about Obamacare, and he was talking about the problems with the website, but I don't know, something about Rick Santorum, you know, he's famous for being anti-gay, and, you know, this is kind of in line with Cardinal Timothy Dolan's comments there, where he made some, like, weird references about the Catholic Church being closeted. Check out here Rick Santorum, both in terms, when he's criticizing Obamacare, first he talks about how the front end is good, but not the back end, and then he talks about, and then he'll end, I'll show you the clip and comment on it afterwards.
It's undecipherable, and it's requiring them to, on a case-by-case basis, actually have someone go, because there's misinformation, there's triplicates, there's, you know, husbands labeled as wives, there's all sorts of problems with the data coming to the insurance company. So you think you may have signed up, but you may not, because the insurance company may not have the data available to actually put you in the system.
Sorry about that. That didn't play from the beginning. Let me see if I can try it one more time. I think, let me see. See if I can get it to play from the beginning. I think it's because of this new software. Let me try again. Oh. Sorry about that. This is I'll have that fixed by next week, but I had some of these clips loaded up the wrong way, so that when I started playing them before, I guess let me make sure that doesn't happen on the next clip here. Sure it doesn't. Okay, so I was also sorry having to do some technical stuff during the broadcast there, but I was talking about how the website has been, today was the day that it was supposed to be up and running, and of course the Obama administration released a report that gave a really rosy picture of how things are going, and actually down in the video description I put a link to the 8-page report where you can read it for yourself, but I'll show you how it was that the CNN reported. First they showed a clip from Jeff Zients, who was sort of the big manager from the private sector who came in to fix it. And anyway, here's how CNN reported in this clip. Oh no.
bottom line, healthcare.gov on December 1st is night and day from where it was on October 1st.
Night and day, those are his words. I do have to say, we really won't know for sure until users try to get on that website over the days and months to come. But on the call, officials pointed to what they say is dramatic progress being made on the site, that average response times for a page should now take a fraction of a second. That's down from 8 seconds. They also say they've decreased the error rate from 6% to below 1%, and that 50,000 users should be able to get on the site at any given time. That's actually double what it was. Now, if there are more users at any given time as well, people will be put in a virtual queue. They'll then receive an email that tells them of a better time to come back and try. We're told the system should be able to support at least 800,000 consumers a day, but this may not be over yet because, Candy, the administration says that more work will be done in the weeks and months to come. Lots of numbers there, but that's pretty much the bottom line, what we heard today.
So yeah, that is a summary of what you can find. The 8-page report, like I said, is down in the video description, so you can read the whole thing yourself, but that's how it's been summarized, and apparently things are working okay on the website. That was how it was reported pretty much everywhere, except of course on Fox News, which I won't go into all the things they did. I'll show you one thing in a little bit on that. But the big evidence I think that the website is working is that a lot of Republicans have moved on to their next series of talking points, which is they're playing up the people who are losing out, who have gotten cancellation notices that they're blaming on Obamacare, even though I've talked in previous Liberal Viewer Sunday live clip roundups about how it's really the insurance companies that cancel stuff in the individual market, and that other plans were actually grandfathered in. But I'm not going to go into all that again, but I want to show you how the Republicans have been spinning this as that they're going to be more losers than winners, and I'm not sure that's going to be true, but you can expect to be hearing this from Republicans all the way through the 2014 election, I think. And here's an example from Tennessee Senator Bob Corker in this clip.
But at the end of the day, while there will be a few winners, most Americans are going to find a less dynamic health system. They're going to find that the cost of the health care that they're able to purchase is going to be a lot higher. And they're also going to realize that their choices are far less. And so for our country, you're going to have continued downward pressure on employment. You're going to have upward pressure on deficits. And so I still think the foundations of this plan have some of the same kinds of problems that the rollout has had, but they're fundamental, very hard to overcome. And unfortunately, as people enroll, I think there's going to be a lot of negative surprises as to what they're able to enroll in.
Yeah, so there's Tennessee Senator Bob Corker talking about how there are going to be a few winners but a lot of losers, and you can basically hear that same talking point from House Republican Mike Rogers from Michigan, who he's head of the Intelligence Committee, and I'm going to show him talking about spying and terrorism a little bit later, but here you can see him with that same basic talking point that there are going to be more losers than winners under Obamacare over in this clip.
Here's the problem. You have 15% of the population didn't have health insurance when this started, roughly, and we think that number was high. We think it was closer to 10. So what they've done is disrupted it for the 85% that had health care, and their costs are going up significantly. So we've broken the system to help a few. Nobody would fix a problem that way. And think of the people who are going through all of the anguish today for getting that pink slip on their medical insurance, who have cancer, who have a wife that's pregnant. Those folks are absolutely apoplectic. And so I think this is crazy that we're saying, well, if we just tweak it a little bit, we're going to take care of their problem. These are real life problems, and these folks are already having a hard time in this economy, and their health care insurance is going up, and they've got to figure out how to get it.
So yeah, there's Mike Rogers saying that the same talking point, basically, that they're going to be a few winners but a lot more losers, and I'll show you the refutation of that from Representative Chris Van Hollen, who was also on with Representative Mike Rogers there. But before I get to that, I want to show one of the most disingenuous, hypocritical arguments I heard. This is Mike Rogers, who, like I said, is really, he's head of House Intelligence Committee and is one of the biggest defenders of NSA spying, and he's like never met an NSA spying program he doesn't like, I think, from all the clips I've shown over many months. Here he is complaining about Obamacare hurting people's privacy, of all things. All of a sudden, Representative Mike Rogers cares about privacy, as you can see in this clip.
Functionality is right, but here's the most important part of this discussion that nobody talks about. The security of this site and the private information does not meet even the minimal standards of the private sector, and that concerns me. I don't care if you're for it or against it, Republican or Democrat. We should not tolerate the sheer level of incompetence securing this site. And remember how much personal information is not only there, but all of the sites that the hub accesses would expose Americans' personal information in a way that is breathtakingly bad.
So yeah, Representative Mike Rogers there suddenly cares about privacy when it comes to Obamacare, but not when it came to NSA spying for months and months and months. And I'll actually show some clips later where he talks about how the NSA spying people are the good guys. And anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to show the other person who was on with him there was Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat in the U.S. House of Representatives, and he's going to explain here how it's actually a small percentage of people who are having problems, and they were actually in a market that has always been broken, the individual market. And anyway, I'll show you that clip here.
Their health care on an annual basis before. We're trying to fix that. There are some imperfections in fixing it. Okay. All the information about compromising your personal data. One of the great things about the Affordable Care Act is
get pink slips.
We're not dealing with pre-existing conditions.
So okay, we're not going to settle this here and now. We're out of time, but obviously this gives you some.
Sorry about that. That was another one of those clips that seems to have... I have to restart it here. Let me see if I can play it from the beginning for you.
A lot more. You just put out so much misinformation in 2 seconds that I can't answer.
All right, quick response.
Well, no, the reality is it hasn't messed up 80% of the market. The individual market, which has always been broken, represents about 5% of the market. A lot of those people were losing their health care on an annual basis before. We're trying to fix that. There are some imperfections in fixing it. All the information about compromising your personal data. One of the great things about the Affordable Care Act is you
get pink slips.
We're not dealing with pre-existing conditions.
So okay, we're not going to settle this here and now. We're out of time, but obviously this gives you some.
Okay, that was the full clip. Sorry about that. I messed up, so you couldn't see the full clip. But yeah, basically the individual market has been messed up for a long time, and I'm glad to see Chris Van Hollen making that point. And then I also want to show you another defense of Obamacare against these Republican talking points from Bob Menendez, senator from New Jersey, was over on Face the Nation, and he talked about how when a similar system was implemented in Massachusetts, at the beginning it had a lot of problems, but by the end it was very successful. Of course, that's was Governor Mitt Romney, who was the unsuccessful presidential candidate last election, who implemented that, Romney Care as they call it. But anyway, here's New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez talking about that, and then saying how in the end he thinks Obamacare is going to be a good deal for Americans.
We get to the period of time at the end of the year, similar to the Massachusetts plan when it was rolled out. Enrollment figures weren't great at the beginning. Everybody waited towards the end, and that was a success. I look at New Jersey, and I think it's a replication of what's out there for the nation. 73,000 young people are on their parents' insurance because of the new law. 1.5 million women in New Jersey are getting additional health care benefits as it relates to their personal health. Senior citizens have saved $470 million in prescription drug benefits. 3.5 million New Jerseyans no longer face some lifetime arbitrary cap when they have a major illness. So if that's a replica of what is happening across the country, I think that senators are going to be in a great position to say, look, we are doing dramatic changes that help you be able to meet the challenges for your family of health care and eliminate some of the greatest evils that existed under the previous system, where you could have a pre-existing condition and be denied health care. You could be born at birth with a disability and be denied health care. You could have a major illness and face that lifetime cap, and now suddenly lose everything you ever worked for. These are the advantages of the program no one speaks about.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's a good defense of a lot of the benefits of Obamacare that aren't getting talked about a lot during the problems with the website rollout. And it seems like a lot of the problems with the website rollout have been fixed, and then a lot of this other discussion between the Republicans and Democrats as to whether there will be more winners or losers. I mean, that's one of those things where it's going to be only time will tell, I guess. That's kind of a cliche, but 6 months or a year from now, there will either be a lot more happy people than unhappy people with what's going on with Obamacare, or the reverse. And I think that's going to be the deciding factor on how it plays in the 2014 congressional elections. So I want to show one more thing on Obamacare. I want to show the way that Fox News introduced the issue at the beginning of the program. This is one of those "have you stopped beating your wife" questions. I thought this was kind of amusing. So I'll show you that. It's just a few second clip from the beginning of Fox News Sunday here.
As more enrollment deadlines are pushed back, is the website the least of Obamacare's problems? We'll ask two healthcare experts on opposite sides of the debate, James Capretta and Neera Tandon.
So yeah, that's one of your Fox News fair and balanced debates on the question of, is the website rollout the least of Obamacare's problems? One side will take yes, one side will take no. But anyway, I thought that was kind of amusing. So I also want to show you, I want to do a little bit of a quick discussion on what is actually kind of a big story that didn't get a lot of coverage in the Sunday morning shows. That's this new confrontation between the United States and China. And first I want to show you the map, and I don't know, is this gonna... So yeah, now you can still hear me. This is from Fox News Sunday. This is a map of the Senkaku Islands, which is what Japan calls them. I can't remember what China calls them, but I notice Fox News Sunday is using Japan's nomenclature, and because it's a conflict between Japan and China over these islands, and China is asserting control over the airspace, and the United States has, on the one hand, is kind of accepted a little bit in telling commercial airliners not to fly through that airspace without talking to China first, but on the other hand is kind of challenging it. They sent some B-52s through there, and China hasn't challenged them. But it basically, by asserting control over that airspace, over those islands, it gets a much better corridor that it can, for its ships, can go out into the Pacific Ocean through, some people call it the East China Sea or the South China Sea. And China has some disputes with Vietnam and I think a couple other countries that could also be a problem. And I want to show a couple clips talking about that. First, I want to show General Michael Hayden, who used to be director of the NSA and the CIA. He talked about how what China's doing is actually kind of not only dangerous, but also kind of a dumb move from China's perspective. And I will show you that clip here.
I was actually surprised by the Chinese move, Chris, and I view it to be both dangerous and dumb. Dangerous because you realize the first crisis in the Bush administration was a collision between an American reconnaissance aircraft and a Chinese fighter, and we barely capped that. Dumb because China was very aggressive in 2009 and 2010 making these claims around their what they claim to be territorial seas. I mean, they treat the South China Sea, or they want to treat the South China Sea the way you and I treat Lake Michigan. No one's going to accept that. And the product of those Chinese steps, which are Chinese missteps, where we get to keep Marines in Okinawa, we have joint exercises with the Philippines, we have Marines in Australia, and we get to home port U.S. naval combatants in Singapore. I mean, this is bad from the Chinese perspective. I really don't understand why they did it.
So yeah, there's former NSA and CIA director Michael Hayden talking about how this doesn't even really make sense from China's point of view, because all those people around China who might have their own problems with the United States are being driven into the arms of the United States by this kind of policy. And that's basically what Tom Donolon, who just also retired as, I believe he was NSA director, National Security Advisor, not NSA director, National Security Advisor for the Obama administration. He recently retired, and this is his first interview, so he's really basically giving the Obama administration view, probably. And he was over on This Week with George Stephanopoulos talking about also basically giving the same opinion as Michael Hayden over in this clip.
For 60 years, the United States has provided the security platform on which Asia's social and economic development has been built. It's a critical role for the United States, and it's one that we should play going forward. And indeed, our decision at the outset of the Obama administration was that we should put more effort into this and provide additional effort and security in the region in order to allow it to go forward. Because do a thought experiment. Do a thought experiment just in this current incident. If the United States weren't present, if the United States didn't take the actions that it's taken in terms of consulting and coordinating with our allies, having Vice President Biden go talk to the Chinese about leaving today, you could see tensions rising to a really dangerous level. This has been a long-time role of the United States, and it's one that we should continue to play and intensify going forward.
And it seems like
Yeah, so that's basically the same thing, that it's not a good policy from China, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with that, but I want to show those clips because the relationship between the United States and China is, of course, one of the most important relationships for future geopolitics, with the relative decline of U.S. power and the relative increase of China becoming world power. So I want to show those clips. Tom Donolan, who was also on, he was talking about another international news story that I thought was important this week about Afghanistan. The United States has been working out this bilateral forces agreement, bilateral security agreement, BSA, that's what it is, with Afghanistan, and it went through the whole Loya Jirga process, which is like the Council of Elders in Afghanistan, and they all approved it. And then this week, the president of Afghanistan came out, Hamid Karzai, and he's been kind of erratic over the years, and he said he's not going to sign it until after the elections next year, and that leaves the United States in a position where we're supposed to be drawing down our forces at the end of 2014, but leaving behind some kind of minimal security force. That's what President Obama has been promising, but we're actually at the point now, and I find this kind of interesting, where we're threatening not to leave any troops in a country. That's, I don't know, I guess isn't that kind of the opposite of colonialism? But anyway, I want to show, here's Tom Donolan talking about the possibility of whether we should really threaten what is called the zero option, which is leaving 0 troops in Afghanistan. And here over on This Week with George Stephanopoulos is Tom Donolan, former National Security Advisor in the Obama administration, talking about whether we should really do the zero option in this clip.
President Karzai should go ahead and sign the agreement. As you and I sit here this morning, George, the United States has 51,000 troops in Afghanistan. Not on the front pages of the newspaper the way it had been in the past, but 51,000 troops.
Casualties way down, though.
Casualties way down, and we are in the process of withdrawing from Afghanistan, and we hope to complete that. We will complete that mission by the end of December 2014. What this discussion is about is whether or not there should be any support, any presence of U.S. troops after 2014 inside Afghanistan.
So why should there be?
Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, President Karzai should go ahead and sign the agreement. It's been approved by a very large assembly of leaders in Afghanistan. 2,500 leaders got together, looked at the proposed agreement with the United States after December 31st, 2014, and asked recommended President Karzai that he sign it. President Karzai should sign it because I think it's in Afghanistan's interest, and I think it's in our interest. That said, his refusal to sign at this point, I think, is reckless. I think it's reckless in terms of Afghanistan, and I think it also adversely impacts our ability to plan coherently and comprehensively for a post-31st,
does the U.S. mean it when it says, presence. Fine, if he doesn't sign it, we really will pull everyone out?
Well, at some point, George, it becomes impossible to make those kinds of plans, right? Number one. Number two, yes, if the United States doesn't have a bilateral security arrangement with Afghanistan, that supports its troop presence there and provides the kind of guidance and protections that we need, the United States cannot be present in Afghanistan after December 31st, 2014. And this has a cascading effect. If the United States isn't there, then the NATO allies won't be there because the NATO allies rely on the capabilities that the United States provides. We won't have the same kind of support for the Afghan National Security Forces, and I think it'll impact non-security assistance as well. It's a very big point of decision here for the Afghans, for President Karzai. He should go ahead and sign the agreement, and if he doesn't, I think the United States will move towards plans for so-called Option B. And by the way, the United States has a lot of options with respect to being able to pursue its interests.
Could that...
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting to see the United States is threatening not to leave any troops in Afghanistan, and I'm not sure how that's going to work out. Somehow I think that there will be some sort of forces agreement, some sort of security agreement where the United States does leave troops, but you know that seemed to be the way it should have worked out in Iraq, and the United States didn't end up leaving any forces there, and so I don't know, maybe there will be zero for them. Maybe they will go after the zero option, but that would probably be even worse for Afghanistan than in Iraq, because while the United States occupation, of course, I oppose, I think there is some stabilizing effect of leaving U.S. troops for a certain period of time while the country reasserts its own sovereignty, and you know, if they can work out some sort of security agreement, I don't know. That's my opinion. It may be a controversial one, but I'm going to stick with it. Now, if you think that might be bad, then I don't think that it's bad for the United States to leave a few troops behind in Iraq and Afghanistan to stabilize for a short period of time. Then you're really not going to like what Candy Crowley did with this issue over on State of the Union, where she played it over to, let's see, in this first clip, it's Candy Crowley talking to Dianne Feinstein, who, as I've said before, I'm kind of embarrassed, is a senator from my state of California, and she uses the Afghanistan story to bring up fears of 9/11 and go into the whole threat of terrorism aspect, and I'll show you that clip. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's this clip here.
This week marked the 12th Thanksgiving in Afghanistan for U.S. troops. It is a war that reminds us constantly we are only one missed piece of data away from another terror attack against the U.S. I spoke with the chairman of the Senate and House Intelligence Committees, Dianne Feinstein and Mike Rogers. The big question that's always asked, are we safer now than we were a year ago, 2 years ago? In general,
I don't think so. I think terror is up worldwide. The statistics indicate that. The fatalities are way up. The numbers are way up. There are new bombs, very big bombs, trucks being reinforced for those bombs. There are bombs that go through magnetometers. The bomb maker is still alive. There are more groups than ever, and there is huge malevolence out there.
So, Congressman, I have to say...
So, yeah, that was kind of the Dianne Feinstein be afraid part there, or speech there, and she did seem to have a lot of things to be afraid of, and I don't want to discount them all, but I want to show that wasn't really expected. You expect when a Democrat is asked the question, you know, are we safer? Since there's a Democratic president, you expect them to say we're safer than we were, you know, the president's taken all these steps, and Candy Crowley was actually surprised by that answer, and I'll show you that in the continuation, where she then leads that in over to Mike Rogers, who I was just talking about before, as a big supporter of the NSA and anti-terrorism measures. Anyway, here's the continuation of that clip here.
So, Congressman, I have to say, that is not the answer I expected. I expected to hear, oh, we're safer, do you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree that we're not safer today for the same very reason. So the pressure on our intelligence services to get it right, to prevent an attack, are enormous. And it's getting more difficult because we see the Al-Qaeda as we knew it before is metastasizing to something different. More affiliates than we've ever had before, meaning more groups that operated independently of Al-Qaeda have now joined Al-Qaeda around the world. All of them have at least some aspiration to commit an act of violence in the United States or against Western targets all around the world. They've now switched to this notion that maybe smaller events are okay. So if you have more smaller events than bigger events, they think that might still lead to their objectives and their goals. That makes it exponentially harder for our intelligence services to stop an event like that.
Because essentially one person can do a small event.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So yeah, that's kind of scary that there are going to be all these smaller events instead of the big 9/11 type events. Although, like I said, I'm not sure I take anything Republican Representative Mike Rogers or Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein says at face value when it comes to terrorism and NSA spying. And in fact, this is a lead-in then to what Mike Rogers then says all these terrorism threats are a reason why we shouldn't have been so critical of our NSA spying, and that he said that just a little bit a few minutes later on that same program over in this clip.
I think that the threat level has never been more diverse than it is today, and that's one of the bigger, I think, concerns that we have, and I think why we both would agree that the threat is higher today and we are probably less safe, is the more efforts they try, the more perfect you have to be in order to stop something, and that's a huge challenge.
And lucky.
And lucky. And so you think about what's happened with the recent disclosures. We have now 3 al-Qaeda affiliate groups have changed the way they communicate. Means it's less likely that we're going to be able to detect something prior to an event that goes operational, meaning that they've already started the final planning stages to blow something up or shoot someone. And so we're fighting amongst ourselves here in this country about the role of our intelligence community that is having an impact on our ability to stop what is a growing number of threats. And so we've got to shake ourselves out of this pretty soon and understand that our intelligence services are not the bad guys. The bad guys, the al-Qaeda affiliates, Russian intelligence services, Chinese intelligence services, the Quds Force that operates terrorism events all around the world, those are the folks we need to focus our attention and our energy on in order to keep America safe.
So yeah, there you have Mike Rogers then bringing all this back to NSA spying and the defense of NSA spying, which is kind of what I was talking about before. And I thought it was kind of interesting that he mentioned Russians and the Chinese as the bad guys, which, you know, they're supposedly not our enemies, and that's a little bit bellicose, I thought. And then I wanted to show also a clip from Michael Hayden, who of course was over on Fox News Sunday. He was, if we're on the subject of NSA spying for a moment here, he was asked a question about the supposed doomsday cache of documents that Edward Snowden, who was the one who leaked all this information about NSA spying, that supposedly Edward Snowden has this cache of doomsday documents. If anything happens to him, he's going to release. And so former NSA and CIA Director General Michael Hayden was asked about that on Fox News Sunday, and I thought his reaction was interesting over in this clip.
Intelligence officials are now talking about their real concern that NSA leaker Edward Snowden may have put together something that's being called a doomsday cache of top secret documents, much more damaging than anything he's released so far, and that they will be released if anything happens to him. Do you think that that is a legitimate and real concern?
I have seen those reports, Chris. I have no reason to doubt them.
Do you believe it?
I have, again, I'm not in government, I don't know secrets, but it's the kind of thing that someone as clever as Snowden has shown himself to be would probably do.
And is there anything we can do about it?
Well, it's very, very hard. This is, Chris, be very candid with you, this is catastrophic for the safety and the security of the American nation, what this very narcissistic young man has done.
And to that degree, is it a good insurance policy? And should the lesson be lay off Snowden because you don't want this doomsday cache to be revealed?
No, I wouldn't think that's right either. That's a little bit like negotiating with terrorists. I don't think we ought to do that either.
So yeah, there you've got former NSA and CIA Director Michael Hayden talking about dealing with Edward Snowden is like dealing with terrorists, and calling him a very narcissistic young man. So it didn't sound like he liked Edward Snowden very much there, so I thought I would play that clip as well. I thought that was kind of interesting. I have just a few more clips here. I want to first play a couple on the Iran deal. I played several clips on that. That was sort of the big story last week, and there's been a little bit more divergence between the U.S. and Iranian positions on the deal in the last week. Iran has been emphasizing more that it has this right to enrich uranium, and so that's made some politicians here in the United States and Congress especially nervous about the deal, both Republicans and Democrats. And I want to show a clip from a Republican and a Democrat on that, both skeptical about the deal. But this is one of my comedic clips. I think this, even though I have no quasi-news clips from Real Time with Bill Maher or Saturday Night Live for you this week, there are some comedic clips, and here's one of them from Tennessee Senator Bob Corker. I actually laughed out loud when I heard him complaining about the Iran deal. I'll explain after I show you the clip right here.
Really difficult, and I want to say this is felt in a very strong bipartisan way. It's very difficult to understand that at the height of our leverage, we had six countries negotiating, and the world behind us. We negotiated a deal of this nature with not a single centrifuge being dismantled, all of them spinning in perpetuity for the next 6 months. And I think...
So yeah, I didn't quite understand that phrase there. That seems almost like an oxymoron, that these are going to be spinning in perpetuity for the next 6 months. That seems to be where some of the rhetoric against the interim deal and the possibility of maybe a better deal being negotiated 6 months from now, I don't know. I talked about that a lot last week, but I also want to show that it's not just Republicans who are opposing this. There are a lot of people in Congress who are skeptical. It seems like there may actually be new sanctions against Iran that are passed by the Congress on a bipartisan basis, but they won't go into effect until 6 months from now if there isn't a final deal worked out after this interim deal is completed, which is only supposed to last for 6 months. And I want to show a clip from Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey, where he talks about his skepticism as a Democrat, and he gives like 3 reasons he's skeptical, and it all has to do with Iranian uranium enrichment, as you can see over in this clip.
Concerned about some elements of the text that people haven't focused on. For example, already in that text, as it relates to what is defined as a comprehensive solution, there's some suggestion that we are going to define what a mutually agreeable enrichment program is. So we've already ceded away from UN Security Council resolutions that say no enrichment. Secondly, there is the ability to extend this interim agreement and to deal with the UN Security Council resolutions. Well, unless you're going to deal them away, I don't know what there is to deal. The Security Council resolutions call for ceasing enrichment. And lastly, there is a provision here that envisions in a comprehensive solution a sunset clause that would say that after a period of time, which is not defined, that the Iranians would be treated as any non-nuclear weapons state. That means that they could, after that period of time, enrich uranium without any consequence and without any limitations. They could seek a plutonium track without any limitations. Those are real concerns. So defining both what the end state is, as well as having a sanctions regime that is ready to go should the deal not fall through. Now, I hope the deal can be successful. Obviously, diplomacy is something we want to see work, but we need to be ready to move forward.
Senator.
So yeah, there's Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey talking about his 3 concerns about this deal, and they turn out to be Iranian uranium enrichment, Iranian uranium enrichment, and Iranian uranium enrichment. And as I was talking about last week, that's basically the part of this deal that was finessed, because what they did is they agreed that would be something that would be negotiated in the final agreement, which has a lot of people upset because the right to enrich is not something that Iran should have under the the UN Security Council resolutions, but it seems like something the United States might be willing to give them. And if you listen to Secretary of State John Kerry on the clips I showed last week, he was talking about how it might be some minor way to do medical research. And so I think that's just something they finesse to negotiate later, and we'll have to see how it turns out in the final deal. So those are the clips on Iran. I want to show a couple more clips before I get to the comment section and do a little live discussion here. See what you're all talking about in the discussion section, because it looks like I have about 100 people watching live, which I really appreciate. I always like to sort of preview what's going on for the 2016 presidential election, and of course the rivalries within the Republican Party. A couple weeks ago I showed some clips of Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, how he wouldn't promise that he wouldn't run for president, or he wouldn't rule it out, and he's going to run for re-election in Wisconsin, and he won't promise to complete that term even though he's running for governor. So that seems to me that, I mean, he's definitely keeping running for president in 2016 open. And he was over on, I believe it was on Face of the Nation, and he made a couple statements. First, I think he has his talking points ready about how he's going to be running against the Republicans in Washington, D.C. because they're so unpopular. And you can see how he set that talking point up over in this clip.
I talk about the difference between Republicans in Washington and Republicans in the states, and one of the key differences is we talk about things that are relevant and optimistic. We talk about fixing schools, balancing budgets, getting the economy going again. We don't talk about sequesters and fiscal cliffs and debt ceilings. Those are things a handful of people in politics pay attention to. What Americans want are people with the courage to stand up and fight for them, not fight against each other, fight for the hardworking taxpayers. And in America, there are 30 Republican governors doing exactly that just as we speak.
So yeah, I think that maybe that will be a successful talking point in the Republican primaries, but I would actually like to see Scott Walker as the Republican nominee, because I think he's vulnerable on a lot of issues, the way he's treated working people and unions, and also I don't think his state has done that well when you compare it. Well, I mean, I'll explain what I mean in just a minute when after I show this clip where he's touting his record and saying that that Republican policies are doing better than Democratic policies, and what's happening in his state is a good example, which I will refute after I show this final clip from Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker here.
Look at states, I mean, look across America. Since last year's convention, I pointed out at the convention speech and just about every month since then that the unemployment rate in states led by Republican governors is consistently almost 1% lower, 1% better than in states led by Democrat governors. That's a real choice. People can look at the difference between the failures in Illinois, for example, versus the benefits of what's happening in a state like Wisconsin. You compare Texas to California, Virginia to Maryland. There's example after example out there where people can see the real difference, and those are the sorts of things we talk about in our book called Unintimidated.
One of the
Yeah, so sorry about that lag there. What Scott Walker is talking about there is he's comparing his record and the record of Republicans to the record of Democrats, but what I think is so disingenuous about that is just last week there was this piece in the New York Times by this Minnesota professor Lawrence Jacobs, and I put a link down in the video description to that article, which you can read for yourself, which shows if you compare Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker to who with his Republican policies in Wisconsin to his next door neighbor in very similar state, Minnesota, it's actually the Democrats who are doing a lot better. And here, let me put. So you can see this is a couple paragraphs from that New York Times piece where it says, 3 years into Mr. Walker's term, Wisconsin lags behind Minnesota in job creation and economic growth. As a candidate, Walker promised to produce 250,000 private sector jobs, but that number is actually less than 90,000, and Wisconsin ranks 34th for job growth. And then along with California, my state, run by a Democratic governor and legislature, Minnesota is the 5th fastest growing state economy, with private sector job growth exceeding pre-recession levels, and it's the 8th best state for business according to Forbes. And and if you read the whole article, you'll see that Lawrence Jacobs talks about how Wisconsin and Minnesota are actually pretty similar. They're that it's a good comparison for Republican versus Democratic policies. And so I'm kind of surprised to see Scott Walker there. I'm sorry, I took a little drink of water while I had that thing up. And I don't think that he would be a very good Republican candidate, because I think he has a lot of vulnerabilities, even on his record that he was touting there. So anyway, I have, it's been almost an hour, but I have a few minutes here to look in the discussion section and see if I've got some good on-topic comments from you all. As I said, I'm using new software today, so I didn't have to load up 3 clips at a time, but there were a couple glitches there where the clips played where I had left off when I was like getting them ready before the show, so they didn't start at the right place, and I had to go through and change those. That won't happen next week because I figured that all out in the course of the show, so I know which thing to click to turn off, so that won't happen. So I appreciate you bearing with me. Next week, I actually may be going to this ACLU Bill of Rights Day celebration. I won't know until Wednesday, so I'll let you know for LiberalViewer Wednesday, the LiberalViewer Wednesday live Q&A that I do on the first Wednesday of the month. I'll be doing that this Wednesday, and I'll let you know if I'm going to the ACLU event, which is next Sunday. If you're in the Northern California area, you can still go. The tickets are cheap. You can find out information about that at aclunc.org/BORD, which stands for Bill of Rights Day. And I may be going there, and I'll have something up next Sunday, either recorded video from that event or Sunday clip roundup. And if I can't do the Sunday clip roundup, I'll do like some abbreviated version later. I don't know exactly how it'll work out, but before I get to all that, let me see what kind of on-topic comments hopefully I have here in the discussion section. I saw that I had a bunch of comments before the show started. Let me go through here real quick. Let's see. People were watching like hours before I actually started live. I don't know why. Oh, of course. Let's see. I have NO8549 says, I'm a fan of Bono, but am open to reading the frontman Bono in the Name of Power, a book critiquing his advocacy in that he hogs the spotlight so Africans are left out of the discourse. Well, I appreciate a fan of Bono being open to the fact that he has a huge ego. I do like some of U2's music. I've seen, like I said, I saw U2 live. I like their work with Brian Eno especially. I don't know, some of it just seems to me to be, anyway, I don't, but his work for fighting AIDS in Africa, whatever ego he has, I think it's good work, so I can't really fault him there. So thank you for that comment, NO8549. Let me see. Oh, I noticed someone was pointing out in the comment section that during the live event, they can actually comment even if they don't have a Google Plus account, because just old YouTube accounts can still comment during live events, even though they've instituted the Google Plus account system when it's a recorded show. So anyway, let me see if I can get a couple more. It looks like you're arguing with each other, which I always like to see, that we get a little bit of live discussion going between the viewers. There seems to be a lot of talk about Xboxes and PS4s, which I do not know why that is going on in the comment section. Let me scroll up a little here, see if I can. Sony micro. Wow, a lot of. I don't know why that has been a big topic in the discussion section. Let's see. Jan Etor says we shouldn't tolerate people in the first world nation not being able to have health insurance. Well, you know, there are some people who say that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and I have sort of a nuanced view on that. I think that, you know, some people think it should be like a constitutional right. I don't think it should be a constitutional right, but I do think it should be a statutory right, which we're getting closer and closer to. You know, Obamacare is not universal coverage, but I think in a, you know, rich, developed democracy, you should be able to provide universal health care through legislation to your citizens. I don't think it should be written in as a natural, you know, as a constitutional right, like in the Bill of Rights, because it's I think the Bill of Rights is mostly for negative rights, which is like rights to stop the government from exerting power in certain areas. You limit government power. You don't create government power with constitutional rights like that. That's, if you create government power, you do that through legislation, through the democratic process. That's just my take on it. So that's, I don't know, is that a nuanced view? I think it kind of is. Let me see if I can find a couple more on topic. Let's see, I think I may be running out of time here real soon, but Janie Dora says Fox channel is same color as of Chinese flag. Coincidence? I didn't even notice that. I'm not even sure what that is. Let's see. NO8549 also again says Trans-Pacific Partnership is an important issue, and you know, I noticed people talking about that as part of our relations with Asia, and there's some really nasty copyright parts of that, and that's way beyond the scope of what I'm talking about now. Maybe I should make a video about that sometime, but let's see, there are a lot of talk about drones here, which I didn't talk about at all. I'm not sure. Let's see. Let me see. A lot more arguing with each other, I see. Oh, wait. People talking about Snowden, don't kill Snowden, well, because he has his doomsday stuff. So, let's see. Scrolling through. Yeah, it seems like a lot of arguments on off-topic stuff here today. So, I will do one more refresh here, see if I have any last. Oh, Anne's Wortree says, I love the new comment system with Google+. Well, you know, I like being able to post links in the comments and not having to do it in 500 characters, but I don't know why you have to use Google+ to do that. That's what I don't like about it. David Hume asks, LiberalViewer, what do you think is a greater threat to national security? Drone strikes with little to no oversight and the loose definition of combatants, or the nuclear threat from Iran? Well, which is a greater threat to national security? Well, I think drones do hurt our national security, and I think the little to no oversight and the loose definition of combatants also are one of the reasons. The nuclear threat from Iran, I mean, I think it's somewhat real. It's not like the Ayatollah Khamenei, who is the real leader in Iran, is not a moderate and not someone whose ambitions I think are good. On the other hand, Iran is never really invaded another country, although they've done a lot of support, state support of terrorism over the years. And I wouldn't want a state supporter of terrorism to have a nuclear bomb. So I think drones are a threat to our national security. I think the possibility of Iran having a nuclear bomb is a threat to our national security. And I don't know, it's hard for me to compare the two. But good question. It's not really, I guess it's sort of a slightly on-topic question because I did talk about Iran. And anyway, I noticed that I've got myself about 90 or 100 viewers for most of the time. I think I'm about 85 right now, so I am grateful for all of you who joined me, and I'm over an hour in the broadcast now. Hopefully I'll be more adept at using the new software, so there won't be ends of clips where there's sort of a blank spot, and there won't be so much of a there won't be those clips that don't start in the right place next week. I'll hopefully be adding a new camera, or I'll be playing you some other stuff. As I said, I may be going to the ACLU of Northern California Bill of Rights Day next week. Also look for the new video I'm hoping to make. Obamacare forces corporate abortions, about the whole Hobby Lobby case, and I'll be talking about the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and the First Amendment free exercise clause and establishment clause, and how they both relate to the right of employers not to fund contraceptive care for their employees. And it's kind of a very complicated issue, and I'll be criticizing the not complicated but very simplistic coverage of the issue on Fox News if I am able to complete that video sometime this week. And of course, LiberalViewer First Wednesday Live question and answer session will be this Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, so join me for that if you want me to answer your questions that you can post beforehand or live while I'm doing the broadcast. Thank you all for joining me. If you're here in the United States, have a good rest of your Sunday evening. I'll be watching the mid-season finale of Walking Dead after I have some dinner. Maybe you'll be doing that as well. And for my viewers in Europe or wherever you are on the globe, enjoy the beginning of your new week, December. Have a good rest of the time, or wherever you are. Thanks for joining me for LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup at 6:30 p.m. Pacific every week. I'll see you around the internets. Okay, Sandy, come on.